This is Emmanuel here, back again with another video. Today I wanted to express my gratitude and my worry for the state of law enforcement, and hope there are many problems that we as a people, constituents, people in the common public can do to avoid interaction with law enforcement. Then there are many other things that they can do to assume authority regardless if I want for their involvement or not. They can make themselves involved. When we think about the history of law enforcement, what was its purpose? What was the original purpose of law? It was agreed upon rules or basic rules that people follow so they don't invade each other's lives to an excessive or selfish or invasive or unwanted manner. Now, if we have laws that themselves violate what the original law was supposed to protect, and then we have law enforcement officers enforcing these new imposed laws that are actually going against what the people need, and these are themselves infringing upon our natural freedoms, where's the opt-out? Where is the okay, I don't want to be protected under these laws, so they won't apply to me and I don't get to use your service? Where's the opt-out choice? It's either you opt in or you opt in. You're born part of it. And when you're in this country, you have no choice but to be part of it. And that is not freedom. That is not. If people want to say what America is, in America I'm speaking of, or any other country with extreme authorities and powers similar to law enforcement. But law enforcement is not quite the current tyrant, but because there are law imposers and then law enforcers, right? People that create the laws, people that uphold them, and then people that enforce them. So government, if we want to see the line of tyranny, there is a line. It doesn't begin at one point, right? And then we say when a bad thing happens with an officer with a character flaw that oversteps a boundary. Sometimes I look at it and I see when the people start protesting, and then but the police department themselves or the internal affairs say, oh, the officer made the right decision. I would look at that and say, actually, with the terms of what they are held to and the things they're allowed to do, and what the people allow to happen because they vote these people, they allow this to be part of. Yes, actually, that is true. They are allowed to do these things. They are allowed to have this qualified immunity to violate citizens in an effort to protect them. So they're allowed to be invasive in order to protect, and that's without a choice. So it's like having a parent that you cannot leave. If you have a tyrannical parent, legally, right? Legally, you can leave them at 18. Legally, you can, or you can secede for them with early emancipation, provided that you can, given that you can provide for yourself in a reasonable means of sustenance. And if it's then in your best, it's deemed in the best interest from a court matter. So they're just saying, okay, so are you going to be able to pay taxes? Essentially is what they're saying. Can you have a place to live without your parents and pay taxes? That's what they want to know. It's a business. As much as you think they care about the physical well-being of a child, the emotional well-being of a child, the mental well-being of a child, they want to see in which household can I make the most money, and who's the most reliable, most reliant to be to abide by the rules of the society. And then with that in mind, they place the children with the parent that is most compliant with the rules of law, or the ones that benefit from it already, so are bound with it already. So you say, okay, you're already bound, so we're going to keep this child in there so they are used to this systematic thing. Whether or not it's conscious of the judge making these decisions, it doesn't matter if it is. They're doing it. And that's what the current state of it is. Talk about systematic oppression. Who's the ones being systematically oppressed? children are being systematically oppressed. Race is involved, yes. Systematic oppression? You systematic, yeah, familial and culturally, you're oppressing yourselves by allowing yourself to be deceived by these incentives, and usually those are financial. If you have some or comfortable or comfort, and I understand it wholeheartedly. I've been experiencing putting myself through environments currently going around. I've made my go. I'm in Wyoming right now, so I ventured west from the state I was staying in for a while. In Georgia, I ventured west. I've been through. I went north first, so I went up to Chicago. Then I went west through the Iowa, Nebraska, Colorado, and now I'm in Wyoming. And in those major cities, I see a similar trend of poverty next to affluence, and the poverty and the homeless people are just part of the landscape. It's something people are all too normalized with. And actually it's weird that it's in these states where there's so much open space that there's homelessness. That just shows an unequippedness for life, and it shows that not having an education will put you on the street. And what type of education is that? It's knowing how to be self-sustaining. Because in these states, why you could build a shelter in the woods if you knew how to, if you cared to do that, but you're in a privileged enough position to live or to put yourself in an affluent area in these downtown areas where there are resources for you to take advantage of, because they'll throw pieces of bread at you instead of you going out to get a fish. Right, there's these psychological factors that say, I'm homeless, I need to go where I can get help with what I want. So they still want to be in an area of comfort, an area of familiarity, which is understandable. But somehow they're psychologically, compelled to these areas like Omaha, Chicago, Denver, Colorado, to name the ones, the major ones that I've seen this, and I'm like, what? They look exactly the same. First of all, the street design, the blueprints, the cityscape, they are very similar in nature. Very. Then you go into the demographics that you see. There's minorities living among affluent. There's a very built-up area with the surrounding areas of varying levels of middle class and poverty. And it's a game people play because they're told you have to play. You're born into this game. I'm right now operating inside of it, I suppose, but I wouldn't say I'm playing it. I'd say I'm a spectator that's not controlling anything. I'm going to have to get back in the game though, in order to keep pace with certain things. You have to play, in order to be in certain positions, in order to have influence. But I won't compromise my integrity to play the game. And that's what I realize is capable. Because there are some parts of it that are good, right? Not everything about everything is bad. Like, even if you think about poison, you think about toxins, what is it there for? Where did it originate? I mean, you think of like toxic animals or venomous animals, it's for self-protection. Once one has experienced that this is not, pleasant, or through someone else's experience they learned through, hey, may want to back off. Certain colors signify dangers. Hey, may want to back off. Now, when we look at a human thing, these wires have been crossed because there's been intentional deceptions with who shall be deceived as dangerous, rather than looking at, because humans, they come in a multitude of colors and none of them specify the danger of oneself. Unless, of course, unless you consider tattoos at a point in time, where you're making a physical alteration to your body's character, your observable quality. You're making yourself look dangerous, so people so people are encouraged to fear you because that's something you want. Today, that's not so stigmatized. Fear in certain areas, sure, but in most common popular circles, that's been destigmatized. The tattoos, even though in the professional world they are still in a professional business Thai world. Tattoos are not, and tattoos are for me. It's just because it's not natural. I don't want to put art on myself. It's something permanent. I say people do what you want. You can interpret it however you want. It can be interpreted, reinterpreted, and you cannot get mad at the interpretations. You can be uncomfortable with the interpretations, but you have to be understanding that it's subjective because it's observable. What isn't subjective is action. So instead of people want to say content of character, people always want to quote Martin Luther King, content of character stuff, yada yada yada. Yeah. I agree, but that's overplayed. People don't care about the content of character. Black people that feel like they're being prejudiced or discriminated against don't take heed to that state. There's too many stereotypes going around that don't take heed to that state. It may very well be so that the world has gotten better in some ways, but America and its progress is a staggering one, very zigzaggy, and it's not on an incline. It's quite certainly plateaued. Of course, through times there will be these organic changes through technology and certain areas of deception will be replaced with new areas. There'll be more cunning, more witting with these things, but all the while, the deceptive tactics, these tactics don't change. I mean, they just evolve. So when you have a system that's set up specifically for something, just because you see people use it differently doesn't change what it was used for. It doesn't change what could potentially be used with. Considering these law enforcement entities, look at the entire picture. Don't look at a finger on a very large body, because behind the finger is a whole fist. Behind that fist is a forearm. Behind that forearm is a shoulder. Behind that shoulder is a chest that's got itself angled in a position, and you're going to be hit with something very mildly stinging. Behind that chest is a full torso in a body that's very large, that if you don't comply will bludgeon you to death. And that is an intentional installation or an instillment of fear that is placed into the psychology and the mental state subconsciously of all Western civilized people. If you think you have more freedom, it's like getting a stipend. It's like house slaves. It's like slaves can go into house. Is that freedom? No, you have more I guess in a very elementary way of freedom, yes, freedom, but because you are still owned, because you are still property, what is the real change? What is the real effort? What is the real deal? I'm going to continue to engage with people throughout these cities. I'm not going to present myself as a heavy, presence, but or purposely draw attention to myself more than a sign that's this wide and this tall. I'm not going to force anyone to do anything. I want to engage people that want to be engaged with. Self-sufficient, self-provoking, because that's who we're going to need for these things to change. And maybe I might need to involve myself in these social protests that I despise in order to get the attention. I might need to go there, which is something I considered doing but haven't kept tabs on, if I'm being honest. It's something I should have done, because I've thought about it. It's like, where do I get the people that need to, not that they are willing to change anymore in a popular area, but people that are at least thinking about something. And maybe I can get them to engage and think more and think a little bit deeper, especially the youth that is being deceived, that the struggles that they see today are new, or they're dealing with an old struggle that they're going to try to change, and the change that they think is being done or being passed with legislation these bills and stuff aren't really changing a thing. It's showing face. Just like certain bills being passed for particular races and stuff. It's an incentive thing. It's meant to be incite. It's meant to incite. It's meant to be divisive. These things are intentional because if you realize, these are conversations I like to have in private. There's nothing I can really, when I'm speaking just freely like this, without a particular direction, without a question being asked, I go off and go everywhere. Which is why I need a team of people that are particularly invested, or they talk about something, we engage with each other and spit, not spit, but pass off of each other's ideas and such. I truly enjoy that type of engagement and that discourse. But today is another day in the life in the city, and I'm enjoying it. Sure would be a lot better spending it with others. Fighting for change and progress in a time and place, in a fashion, and for something that people don't feel needs to change, or for something people don't see as an issue, is one of the most grueling processes. Because I can introduce the idea to plenty of people, but then they say it's too large, or don't know how to do that, and they say good luck, and I say thank you. That's all I can say. Instead of what can I do to help? It's like, even when I see people, it's like they don't want me to do anything besides donate my money and share the profile page. I'm like, no. What can I do? Sign this petition. What can I do? This pandemic thing is going to be an excuse for how long? I'm telling you, this was a very well. It was previously planned, but because this, I believe the pandemic could have been just a coincidence. They made sure they took this opportunity to set up these barriers with state and law, where the ones that disagree with the deceptions are made to look like conspiracy wackos, and people will be disengaged from them. And then those people harden their minds and their hearts against anything coming from the other side. It's a purposeful division, and I am privy to it. They do not fool me. They have not fooled me for some time. The 2016 race. So starting in 2014 primaries or something like that, I started looking at it. I'm like, these candidates, it's like interesting. Ask anyone, I predicted Donald Trump would win. Bernie, was he close? Was he a viable competitor? Sure. But was he being deceptive as well? Certainly. Boy, oh boy. But I can see why some young individuals liked it. But of course, once you become involved in politics, you cannot leave clean. So there's obviously some deceptive tactics that were used. There were things he likened himself to intentionally. There's things that he stroked the ego of. Not even being in full support of something, but allowing things to flourish as they were. Intentionally divisive, or just this is what it was going to be. And then we look at the newest version, you don't see anything much different. I tell you, if you vote for anybody within the realm of these current political options, you're voting for a bad life regardless. You're voting for a life being controlled no matter how free you seem. And you're voting for someone else to be controlled. It's very simple, very easy. And there should be an opt-out option, especially when you consider the land where you come from. You consider the natives and the things that they've fought for. Where is their justice? They haven't gotten it. This is introductory, as always, as everything. If there's anything you'd like to ask, mention, care for me to elaborate more about, just ask and I will. Thank you all for watching, listening, or reading. This is Benny Emanuel with TrustAllTruth.com. Be blessed, stay blessed, and I'll see you all in the next one.